Your Excellency, Baroness Poppy Gustafsson, Chairman Fang Wenqian, Madam Jennifer Jordan-Saifi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 7th China-UK Economic and Trade Forum. The event is hosted by China Chamber of Commerce in the UK, as well as being specially supported by the Chinese Embassy in the UK and the Department for Business and Trade. Today, we're joined by over 300 leading figures from the political, business, academic, and other sections to participate in this event. And before we hear from our speakers this afternoon, CCC UK would first like to show you a short video and learn more about their achievements over the years.
For centuries, the UK has pioneered, persevered and prospered in this beautiful land where tradition and modernity intertwine. With trade and culture as our brush, Chinese enterprises and British partners as our colours, the China Chamber of Commerce in the UK paint the canvas of cooperation between two great nations. Since 2001, the CCC UK has stood firm against our founding purpose, carefully nurturing the growth of Chinese enterprises on British shores, holding tightly our members' hands as we walk down a path filled with growth and change. Along this journey, we have sowed the seeds of collaboration, witnessed the flowers of achievement, and protected the aurora of our mutual prosperity. With over 300 members spanning across finance, industry, technology, and energy, we stand united, sourcing strength from our diversity. Together, we amplify the influence of Chinese businesses not only in the UK, but also on the global stage. With each event we host, each collaboration we forge, we expand the canvas of partnership. As we welcome the vibrant red of Labour's government, we lay forth our hand, proudly filled with opportunity and confidence of our members and partners across the country. Our surveys reveal our bond is stronger than ever, with nearly 70% of enterprises weaving closer ties. We keep stepping forward, exploring new vivacious opportunities in our shared future. In 2024, the CCC UK has added countless flickers of colour on China-UK trade cooperation. We opened doors to opportunity and entered the ingress of our shared ambition. In the dark corners of this painting, we utilised the colours of growth, resilience and innovation, and filled the blackness of uncertainty with the brightness of confidence. As the stage is transformed by digital and intelligent technologies, we see this canvas redefined. Innovation and sustainability become the new tips of our brushes. We shall draw with creativity and inspiration as we embrace the new challenges of this changing world. With each flick of our brush, the CCC UK unveils strength in this shared portrait, reinforcing the confidence of the Chinese enterprises in the UK. Notably, 92% of companies envisioning steady growth and resilience, 77% reported stable or increased revenue over the past year, with 53% being profitable. The CCC UK is not merely a business entity. We embody responsibility and passion. We engage in charitable acts and cultural restorations. We foster connections in local business communities and utilize culture as a bridge to unite. From citywide tours to exhibitions, the CCC UK acts as a conduit for cultural exchange, binding the peoples of China and Britain in a tapestry of shared experiences. As new corners of this canvas unfolds, the CCC UK shall continue to wield our brush, sketching cooperation and drawing growth. Together, with our global partners and local members, we will unsheathe the colours of potential and opportunity, creating a grand landscape of our shared future. China Chamber of Commerce in the UK, empowering the world. Together we win.
So it's my pleasure now to introduce our host, Mr. Fang Wenqian, Chairman of the CCC UK, General Manager of the Bank of China London branch. He will give you a welcome address. Let's welcome him to the stage.
Thank you, Richard. Your Excellency Ambassador Zheng Zeguang, Minister Baroness Poppy Gustafsson, distinguished speakers, panelists, and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the China Chamber of Commerce in the UK, I'm delighted to extend our warmest welcome to all of you. Since 2018, we started to launch the China-UK Economic and Trade Forum as an annual event, and we did not stop even during the pandemic years. We are so grateful that all of you can join us for this forum on its 7th year, and especially on this very cold weather, as some of you I know travel along to join us. Thank you so much. Special thanks to Your Excellency Ambassador Zheng. You have come to our forum every year to share your views on the bilateral relationship and encourage us to achieve more, even at the most difficult times. Minister Gustafsson, congratulations for your recent appointment. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today. With your very strong business background, we feel assured that you would be able to understand our contribution and challenges. This is probably your first major engagement with the Chinese business community in the UK, and I know our members are keen to hearing from you today. There could not be a more fitting moment for our forum this year. It marks our first gathering since the new Labour government took office and comes just 3 days after the first meeting in nearly 6 years between the Chinese President and the UK Prime Minister. The business community feels greatly encouraged by the meeting and by the commitment expressed by our leaders to deepen cooperation. And we welcome more engagement between both governments, which is crucial for enabling both countries to build strong economic ties and to foster a consistent, durable, and respectable relationship. Last Thursday, I had the honor of attending the annual Mansion House banquet for financial and professional services. Some of us were there. Michael, I know you were there. I was deeply impressed by the Chancellor's powerful message that improving economic growth has been at the very heart of everything she is seeking to achieve. Her declaration that economic growth is now a national mission was clear, confident, and resolute. What she said about supporting growth is music to our ears. As the chairman of the CCC UK, I'm very pleased to say that the Chinese business community here is keen to support the British government in achieving its growth objectives. Our members are more capable than ever to play our role in the UK economy. According to the Towing Tracker report by Grant Thornton, by the end of last year, the 970 largest Chinese-owned companies in the UK employed about 60,000 people and contributed a total revenue of £116.4 billion to the UK economy. Our Chamber's recent survey also reveals positive trends. 92% of companies expecting stable or increased revenue over the next 2 years, which is the most positive forecast since this survey began in 2020. And furthermore, 53% of the companies surveyed will reinvest over half of their profits back into the UK, underscoring their commitment to the local economy and employment. Beyond revenue, Chinese businesses are playing a key role in promoting balanced development across the UK. While London remains a hub, with 73% of Chinese companies choosing it as their headquarters, 27% now operate from other locations, a steady rise from 23% in 2022 and 19% in 2021. Additionally, 55% of Chinese companies have expanded their operations beyond their headquarters, establishing a presence in regions across the UK. Today, we have organized 2 dedicated panel discussions that will delve into promising areas of future growth. The first panel will examine what role the financial sector can play in driving economic growth for both countries, while the second one will explore how to foster innovation and sustainable development in both China and the UK in this era of rapid technological change. I think, Minister, technology advancement is at the heart of you as well. These vital topics will be discussed in depth by practitioners in these fields, and I hope we can generate constructive suggestions and actionable recommendations. Ladies and gentlemen, the bonds between China and the UK are rooted in a history of cooperation and hold immense potential. The CCC UK remains committed to serving as a bridge that facilitates communication and builds trust as we explore pathways to shared success and growth. Finally, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Chinese Embassy in the UK, the Department for Business and Trade, as well as our partners and sponsors for their generous support. Your contribution and assistance have made it possible to bring us all together today. I sincerely hope this forum will serve as a platform that fosters understanding, inspires thought-provoking insights, and propels our cooperation to new heights. Now, without further ado, it is my great honor to welcome our first keynote speaker, His Excellency Ambassador Zheng Zeguang. Thank you. Ambassador, please.
Minister Gustafson, Chairman Fang Wenjian, Ms. Jordan Saifi, Chairman Jack Perry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me special pleasure to attend this 7th China-UK Economic and Trade Forum. Thank you for the kind invitation. So on behalf of the Chinese Embassy, I would like to thank the China Chamber of Commerce and indeed the Chinese and British companies for your long-standing support for China-UK economic partnership and China-UK relations. Ladies and gentlemen, as we speak, the world is gripped by accelerating transformation. Global economic growth is anemic. Geopolitics is volatile. Unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise. Against this backdrop, it's all the more necessary for all responsible countries to work together to uphold multilateralism and the international trading system, to safeguard the global industrial and supply chains, and to promote peace and cooperation. Last month, the UK Labour government unveiled its first budget, focusing on fixing the foundations to generate economic growth. In China, the government introduced a series of policy measures to stabilize the market, boost confidence, and stimulate domestic demand. As a result, the momentum of economic recovery has strengthened. In the first 3 quarters of this year, our GDP increased by 4.8%, laying a solid foundation for achieving our annual targets. Most recently, while attending APEC and G20, President Xi Jinping sent out a powerful message that China will continue to deepen comprehensive reform, expand high-standard open up, pursue high-quality development, and uphold international cooperation and solidarity. We have full confidence in China's development prospects, and these are the key features of our development. First, It is development through reform. We are now implementing the outcome of the third section, plenary section of the 20th CPC Central Committee. And the very purpose of it is to further unleash the vitality and creativity of our country. We will build a high-standard socialist market economy, foster a fairer and more dynamic market environment, and make resources allocation as efficient and productive as possible. We will make new breakthroughs in restructuring the fiscal and tax systems, building a unified national market, and advancing new urbanization. Our reform certainly will give new impetus to the continuous sustainable development for China in the years to come. Second, it is a development through innovation and green growth. We are developing new quality productive forces, transforming all drivers of growth, and promoting the integration of real economy with digital economy. New progress has been made in cutting-edge fields such as AI, quantum information, health, and aerospace. China now has some 400,000 high-tech enterprises and ranks number 2 globally in the number of unicorn companies. In the meantime, we are committed to green and low-carbon transition. China has become the first country with zero increase in land degradation, and the newly added area of afforestation accounts for a quarter of the global total. China's new 3, namely new energy vehicles, lithium batteries, and photovoltaic products, are enabling ourselves and other countries to expedite this green transition. In 2023 alone, China's wind and solar power products have helped other countries reduce about 810 million tons of CO2 emissions. Third, it is development through openness. Opening up is a defining feature of Chinese modernization. Since the start of this year, we have lifted all restrictions on foreign investment in manufacturing and established a nationwide negative list system for cross-border trade in service. We have taken systematic steps to further open the telecom, internet, education, culture, medical service, and other sectors. We have also taken the initiative to apply high international standards of economic and trade rules, including those in CPTPP and DEPA. The 144 hours visa-free transit policy and the unilateral visa-free treatment for 29 countries have further facilitated inbound visits to China. It's much easier to travel to China now since you have this visa-free treatment for 144 hours. Fourth, it is development for shared opportunities. Chinese modernization will continually provide opportunities for the world. Over the past 45 years, China's average annual contribution to world economic growth has been 24.8%, ranking first in the world. The latest forecast of IMF shows that China will continue to be the largest contributor to global growth in the next 5 years. Of course, we hope there will be more economic engines for growth in the world. At the G20 summit in Brazil, President Xi Jinping has outlined China's 8 actions for global development. They are pursuing high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, implementing the Global Development Initiative, supporting development in Africa, supporting international cooperation on poverty reduction and food security, advancing an initiative on international cooperation in open science, supporting the G20 in carrying out practical cooperation for the benefit of the Global South, implementing the G20 Anti-Corruption Action Plan, and unilaterally opening our doors wider to the least developed countries. This will continue to bring confidence and provide boosts to the development of the economy of other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, just 3 days ago, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Keir Starmer met on the sidelines of the G20 summit. President Xi stressed that China and the UK, both permanent members of the UN Security Council and major economies in the world, share the responsibilities of advancing their respective national development and addressing global challenges. Both sides should stick to the positioning of strategic partnership, adhere to mutual respect, openness, and cooperation, and exchanges and mutual learning, strive for mutual benefit and win-win outcomes. We should jointly write the next chapter for the sound and stable development of China-UK relations. Prime Minister Keir Starmer noted that the UK would be a predictable and pragmatic partner for China. The two sides have agreed on the direction of bilateral relations and the actions to be taken. We stand ready to work closely with the UK government to follow up on the common understanding between our two leaders and enhance dialogue, communication, and collaboration wherever possible. Ladies and gentlemen, our economic partnership has always been a catalyst and propeller for the overall China-UK relations. Counting Hong Kong, China-UK annual bilateral trade has surpassed 110 pounds, 10 billion pounds, and the two-way investment stock is over 130 billion pounds. And this is only according to incomplete statistics. Such cooperation has played an important role in our respective economic development and brought tangible benefits to the peoples of our two countries. China and the UK are both champions and beneficiaries of the multilateral system. We should work together in pursuit of an equal and orderly multipolar world and a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization. We must uphold the WTO rules, WTO-centered multilateral trading system, and oppose unilateralism, protectionism, and the fragmentation of the international system. The two governments should start the new round of dialogue on economy, finance, trade, and many other areas, such as the EFD. We need to strengthen cooperation in trade and investment, clean energy, financial services, and medical services. Collaboration in AI, climate change, education, culture, technology, and tourism should also be expanded. In addition, we should encourage companies of our two countries to explore the third-party markets. This will help them to fully complement each other's strengths and achieve win-win-win results. Predictability and certainty is essential to the smooth development of our economic ties. The two sides should work together to create a fair, just, and non-discriminatory business environment and try our best to synergize the development strategies and promote market connectivity. I'm delighted to learn that both Minister Gustafsson and Ms. Jordan Saifi are going to China soon. We support expanding our two-way investment in trade and enhancing practical cooperation under the SMI initiative. I hope the business communities will seize the opportunities, jointly break new ground in China-UK Economic and Trade Cooperation. Together, we can help to enable our overall relationship to a new path of long-term stability. So with that, I wish today's forum a full success. Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the Right Honourable the Baroness Poppy Gustafsson, Minister for Investment at His Majesty's Department for Business and Trade. Let's give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that warm introduction. And I'd like to begin by conveying the appreciation to Chairman Fang and the Chinese Chamber of Commerce for all you do in advocating for Chinese businesses in Britain, those driving growth and job creation in every corner of the UK. We have a long-standing relationship with China. They are our 5th largest trading partner. And as the Prime Minister and President Xi Jinping affirmed earlier this week at the G20, both our countries recognise the importance of a strong UK-China relationship. Yes, there are areas that we differ on aspects of international trade and foreign policy. We can't wish these differences away, but what we can do is engage in a constructive dialogue on them. As the Prime Minister has asserted, we want our relations to be consistent, durable, and respectful. It's why, under this new government, there have already been significant engagement with China. Our Foreign Secretary visited Beijing and Shanghai just last month and met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. They both reiterated our shared commitment to promoting secure and resilient growth. I know our Chancellor also had a positive call with the Chinese Vice Premier when both leaders agreed to resume the UK-China economic and financial dialogue. I'm pleased to say that the next instalment of that dialogue will take place next year. I know it will do much to support the growth of bilateral trade in the years to come. Now, for my department's part, DBT, the Department of Business and Trade. Our Permanent Secretary has visited China in recent weeks too. He has been engaging with the Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology to discuss driving both foreign investment and outbound investment. Department-to-department engagement like this hasn't taken place since before the COVID pandemic. And as the Minister for Investment, I am passionate about building on this momentum. One of the ways that we're doing that is through our industrial strategy, Invest 2035. It will channel support to 8 growth-driving sectors, those in which the UK excels today and will continue to do so tomorrow. These sectors span advanced manufacturing, clean energy, our creative industries, professional and business services. We want to use our industrial strategy to drive up further investment in these areas, giving businesses the confidence that they need to plan ahead, not just for the next 10 months, but for the next 10 years and beyond. Alongside our vision for the industrial strategy, we've also launched an expanded Office for Investment that I will oversee. It will be the UK's first full investment promotion body, with powerful tripartite sponsorship from the Prime Minister, Chancellor, and my Secretary of State. Our offer to investors includes new triage services to help with planning and skills issues. It's a partnership with expert planners and skills specialists in the Ministry of Housing and Department of Education, providing a bespoke, practical support to tear down the barriers to investment. Our Office for Investment will also work hand in hand with central and local government to turn the industrial strategy and regional growth plans into a clear, commercially attractive pipeline of investment opportunities. We want to see more green initiatives like Red Rock Renewables, who are unlocking hundreds of megawatts in new capacity at wind farms off the coast of Scotland, boosting this government's mission to become a clean energy superpower by 2030. And we want to open the door to more investment in our banking and insurance industries, building on China RE's successful £750 million acquisition of the Chaucer Group. But we also recognise that China-UK trade is very much a two-way street. In recent years, we've seen big hitting UK firms like HSBC and Shell investing in China and highly successful operations. UK universities such as Nottingham and Liverpool have grown campuses in China too, while thousands of Chinese citizens study in the UK each and every year. Indeed, many investors are drawn back to Britain for business, either because they themselves studied here or because they have family attending one of our schools or universities. It's why we believe that continued engagement is key to making our ambitions a reality. I want to work with investors and with partners like the Chinese Chambers of Commerce to address some of the most pressing challenges that we face together. We're realistic about the present geopolitical climate, but one clear difference between us and the previous government is our approach to engagement. We believe we must speak often and candidly about areas of contention and, crucially, areas for cooperation too, because that's how we drive growth together and realise a more prosperous future for both the UK and for China. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Your insights and commanding presence paint a compelling vision for the future of China-UK relations. And now it is my distinct honour to introduce our next speaker, who will appear by video, and it is the 696th elected Lord Mayor of London, Alistair King. And only 2 weeks ago, his predecessor, the former Lord Mayor, Michael Manelli, we're graced to have him here in the front row, was the 695th Lord Mayor. So no doubt the current Lord Mayor is busy on other engagements, and we're going to hear from him now via a video message.
I'm sad not to be able to join you at the CCC UK Forum meeting today. China is the second largest economy in the world and the UK's third largest trading partner. I look forward to welcoming high-powered Chinese delegations to my official residence, the Mansion House, this year. I look forward also to visiting Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong during the course of my mayoralty. I will bring with me a powerful delegation. I also look forward to working with the Chinese business community here in London to foster strong collaboration and engagement. I welcome Chinese investment into the financial sector in London and encourage UK firms to sell into China. Particularly, we're looking at the insurance sector, asset management, professional services, green finance and banking. There are some extraordinary examples of the sort of thing that I have in mind. We have just celebrated the 10th anniversary of the China Construction Bank London branch being designated as the sole RMB clearing bank in the UK and passing the RMB 100 trillion milestone. The London Stock Exchange has a leading position on the issuance of green bonds. 108 companies and issuers are involved with a combined market capitalisation of over £170 billion. Also, China CITIC London branch issued an enormous floating rate green bond in July this year. The Chinese business community has great cultural importance both here in the city and the wider UK. Just look at the contribution to the Lord Mayor's show that happened recently and also to City Giving Day. We want to work with the Chinese business community to build the city's competitive advantage and to promote trade with China. I hope that today's forum is a great success. Thank you very much indeed.
It is now my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Jordan-Saifi, a member of the Royal Victorian Order, a visionary leader and CEO of the Sustainable Markets Initiative, which was launched in 2020 by His Majesty King Charles III to accelerate a sustainable future in global value creation. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Jordan Saifi.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Zhong, Baroness Gustafsson, and Chairman Fang, thank you very much for inviting me to be here with you today. I'm delighted to speak about the Sustainable Markets Initiative, which seeks to accelerate the achievement of a sustainable future by leveraging the power, resources, and ingenuity of the global private sector. Founded, as we've just heard, by His Majesty King Charles III when he was the Prince of Wales, we represent over 250 global CEOs across 20 industry and financial sectors and are increasingly seen as the world's go-to private sector organization on a sustainable green transition. Derived from the historic Magna Carta, which inspired the belief in the fundamental rights and liberties of people over 800 years ago, the SMI has two complementary mandates: the Terra Carta, established in 2021, and the Astra Carta, established in 2023. The Terra Carta is a practical roadmap for the private sector to drive accelerated action for nature, people, and planet, in line with the Paris Climate Agreement, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and the Sustainable Development Goals. The Astra Carta challenges the private sector to put sustainability at the center of the growing space industry and to better use data sourced from space to accelerate sustainability on Earth. Recognizing the scale of transition required globally, the SMI works to align industry, finance, and country to accelerate, replicate, and scale solutions across all sectors, including agriculture, aviation, buildings, energy, infrastructure, telecoms, fashion, health, shipping, and space, and so much more. To mobilize the trillions required annually to transition around the world, we need to accelerate the identification, development, and pipeline of investable projects. This requires innovative financial models and mechanisms, as well as blended finance and trade, particularly in emerging and developing economies. To ensure meaningful results on the ground, it is also critical that we build understanding and relationships at the country level. Recognizing the alignment between His Majesty's Terra Carta mandate for nature, people, and planet, and President Xi Jinping's vision of building a community and a shared future for humankind, in 2021, His Majesty, then the Prince of Wales, was invited by the President to establish the SMI's China Council. The following year, in 2022, we were deeply grateful that the China Chamber of International Commerce became the official host of the SMI China Council. The Council now serves as a bridge, fostering high-level collaboration between Chinese and international companies on sustainability issues. And it empowers Chinese businesses to play a more significant role in the global transition while simultaneously deepening their commitment to environmental stewardship. This, of course, includes China's great enterprises. At the SMI, we recognize that China is an indispensable global partner as we seek to accelerate global climate and biodiversity targets. This includes our joint efforts to transition our economies, increase the deployment of renewable energy, accelerate green trade, and improve supply chains to be more sustainable. One concrete example of our collaboration includes the SMI China Council's Health Working Group, comprising 16 companies across healthcare and energy, aiming to accelerate net zero healthcare in China. This led to an industry-first, multi-party renewable power purchase agreement where AstraZeneca, Lonza, Novartis, Novo Nordisk, and Roche signed a 3-year deal with Envision Energy. The agreement will provide 200 gigawatt hours of renewable electricity from 2024, resulting in approximately 120,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emission savings, equivalent of removing 25,000 cars from the road. Next week, we will be attending the second China International Supply Chain Expo in Beijing before visiting other areas in China to deepen our collaboration in green energy, technology, carbon capture, green finance, and water. We are incredibly grateful to the China Chamber of International Commerce and the China Chamber of Commerce in the UK for their support, and we look forward to enhancing our understanding, relationships, and cooperation with China and Chinese businesses in the months and years ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer Jordan-Saifi. Now, we're going to take a short break shortly, and I'm thrilled that our last speaker, Dr. Ma Yun, the chairman of the Green Finance Committee of China, Society for Finance and Banking, has lent his support to today's event, and he, too, has recorded a video message.
Let me start by thanking Bank of China London and China Chamber of Commerce UK for inviting me to join this important forum. Given that the global attention in these days was given to the COP29 and green finance collaboration is one of the key topics in this forum, in the coming few minutes, I will say a few words on the work of China-UK Green Finance Task Force, which I co-chair with Sir William Russell from City of London. As many of you know, the starting point of China-UK Green Finance collaboration was in 2016. In that year, China was the presidency of G20, and China initiated this G20 Green Finance Study Group, which was co-chaired by PBOC and Bank of England. And I had the luck to co-chair this together with colleagues from Bank of England. In the second year, 2017, China-UK began to discuss options for bilateral collaboration. And then we set up a task force, which is called the China-UK Green Finance Task Force. In the past few years, we have achieved lots of good deliverables, including, number one, the launch of the Green Investment Principles for the Belt and Road. And over the past 6-7 years, the GIP, or Green Investment Principles, now has a membership of 50 large organizations, including, of course, the Chinese major banks and UK major banks, plus 40-something from other regions, including in lots of developing economies. And we have set up 4 working groups under the GIP, including those working on climate risk analysis, on disclosure, on financial product innovation, and on transition finance. In recent years, we have launched a few GIP regional chapters, including in Central Asia, Africa, and ASEAN countries, in promoting local adoption of the Green Investment Principle. And the second major effort of the China-UK Green Finance Task Force was setting up the TCFD pilot working group, which initially involved only a few financial institutions in China and UK, and now has nearly 30 financial firms in banking, insurance, and brokerage businesses. And this group has helped the Chinese PBOC in drafting the environmental disclosure requirements, and now is working on ISSB adoption by financial firms in China. And the third effort we made under the China-UK Green Finance Task Force was the launch of the ESG Leaders Forum, which provided a platform for knowledge sharing on how institutional investors can guide invested companies to enhance their ESG performance. And as a result of that, or as a sort of a initiative inspired by the ESG Leaders Forum, China last year launched the CCEI, which is called China Climate Engagement Platform, similar to the CA100. It's a Chinese form of the CA100. And it's now consisting of 40 large investors, managing about 70 trillion RMB. And they work intensively on helping the listed companies to decarbonize their operation. There are other initiatives which China launched and the UK participated in a significant way, including the Capacity Building Alliance of Sustainable Investment, which was initiated in COP28 last year, and now with a membership of 60 large organizations, including HSBC and Standard Chartered. And this CASI platform, which is chaired by myself, has announced its ambition to train 100,000 specialists in green finance by 2030 in emerging markets and developing economies. Looking forward, in addition to the collaboration areas above, the China-UK Green Finance Task Force will explore options to work together on transition finance as well as nature financing. Given that the UK has initiated the TPT, which is a Transition Planning Task Force, and China is also promoting transition planning by firms and by banks, there are big scope for knowledge sharing. And also, given that the TNFD is hosted in UK and China is now working intensively on biodiversity financing, there are a lot of collaboration that's happening in this space as well. So in many of these areas, we will continue to work with UK institutions and experts. I strongly believe that with China running the largest green economy in the world and the UK operating the most sophisticated financial market, we must have a lot in common in developing green finance, green economies for the benefits of both countries as well as for the rest of the world. So next year, I'm planning to lead a Chinese delegation to visit London, probably in June, during your Climate Week, and we will discuss more options around these topics for collaboration. So I look forward to seeing many of you and working with many of your institutions during our visit next year. Thank you once again, and I wish this event a big success.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for a little comfort break of 15 minutes exactly. We would like you back here at 3:15, where we have the panel discussions to present for you. So please refresh yourself back in the reception area and be back here in 15 minutes. And we will start whether you are here or not. So enjoy the next short break. Your Excellency, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for returning and for willing to participate in our next session. This is now time for two panel discussions, and we're going to be joined on stage by several experts in each of the subject matter. The first topic is financial empowerment for global economic growth, exploring new opportunities in China-UK cooperation. And to help us untangle that rather long and wide subject, I'd now like to invite the chair of this first panel to the stage. And so please, would you put your hands together for Ms. Hu Feng, who is the Vice Chair of CCC UK and CEO of ICBC. Thank you. Oh, yes.
Invite all my...
Yeah, you do.
So may I invite all my panelists to go on stage, and then I will formally introduce you later, please. Tom. Yes. This is for you. Yes.
Brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, good afternoon, my lord, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to attend the 7th China-UK Economy and Trade Forum. It's a time for panel session 1. And over the years, finance remains an essential pillar of China-UK bilateral economic cooperation, and therefore remain one of the key areas of this forum. So for background, there are over 40 Chinese financial institutions that have presence in the City of London, covering a broad range of sectors, from banking, insurance, security firms to digital finance. We are deeply involved in the vibrant ecosystem of London International Financial Centre. This panel aims to attract more attention on the crucial role of financial empowerment in driving economic growth, particularly in the context of China-UK cooperation. Our panelists will provide valuable insight into how financial empowerment will provide valuable support to the bilateral economic growth, and what new opportunities are arising in the China-UK bilateral economic relationship, and how financial industry is reshaping its landscape through digitalization to further boost the collaboration among China, UK, and the world. And we will have a Q&A session in the end of the channel, and please prepare for that if you want to raise question, okay? And before we dive into the discussion, let me introduce our distinguished panelists formally. Firstly, and the most extraordinary, Dr. Gerard Lance, one of the UK's celebrated economics with deep knowledge of global economy and finance. Mr. David Wu, Vice Chairman of Deloitte China, who is a professional service industry leader. Mr. Tom Attenborough, Head of International Primary Markets, London Stock Exchange, who has advised hundreds of UK and international companies and their owners on the process of raising capital and listing on LSE. Mr. Bruce Dean, General Manager of International Business, World First, a subsidiary of Ant Group, who is an expert in digital finance and fintech innovation. And Mr. Joe Li, Head of China Desk, HSBC, who is an excellent banker with extensive experience in facilitating China-UK trade and investment. It's a great honor to have all of you here. So audience, probably just join me again to give you a round of warm applause to our panelists. Thank you. Okay, then to kick off the discussion, I have just a quick and broad question for our panelists. How do you see financial empowerment in driving global economic growth? Probably Joe, let's start with you, please.
Thank you, Ms. Wu Fang. Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Li. I head up the China corporate banking business for HSBC. So how financial institution empowers economic growth? I think I see this day in, day out in my role. So what I do is my team helps the bilateral trade and investment between UK and China. So specifically helping Chinese companies expand their market in the UK, trade in the UK, and also invest in the UK. So I think financial services play a significant part in driving this bilateral relationship and grow the economy. And I think for a bank such as HSBC, it's not something that new that we do. We've been doing this for over 150 years. As the name suggests, HSBC stands for Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, right? So we started in Shanghai and Hong Kong 153 years ago now, 154. So our aim at the beginning was to facilitate trade between Asia and the West. And I think we'll continue to do so until this day, to promote break down barrier, improve relationship, and enhance collaboration. And I think we do a pretty good job as one of the global's largest trade bank. So to answer your question, I think financial institutions such as HSBC, we play a significant role in this and wish to deepen our role going forward. Thank you.
Actually, thank you. Thank you for HSBC for supporting the bilateral trade and investment between China and the UK for quite a long history. And we also appreciate the competition and the collaboration between HSBC and the Chinese banks, including ICBC. Okay, probably next, I would like to invite Tom, would you please?
Sure, thank you very much. I think in a little bit the same way as HSBC have just described, a stock exchange plays a really fundamental role, I think, in financial empowerment. And we at London Stock Exchange have a long history of doing exactly that. We fundamentally, the role of an exchange is to provide those that need capital with access to those that have capital in services of an objective. And we've been doing that for 300 years. We started at Jonathan's Coffee House. The technology's changed a little bit since the bits of paper stuck on the walls. But fundamentally, what we've been trying to do is still the same. We're a very international exchange at our heart. So of the 1,800 or so companies on the London Stock Exchange with equities listed with us, Asia Pac represents a large number. We've got 167 issuers from the broader APAC region. So it's an important part of our business, and fostering that that access to capital in the London market we think is really important, because of course it serves this idea of financial empowerment in two different ways. One is providing companies access to that capital to grow, but the second, of course, is that by that listing process, it provides investors that trade through London the ability to invest in those companies more easily, providing them with opportunities to grow their own wealth, which again has a sort of flywheel effect on sort of economic growth more broadly. So I think we come at it from both ends, both from the end of the issuer and indeed that of the investor, as any exchange would, and that's very much core to what we do in our business day to day.
Thank you, Tom. It's very easy to understand that LSE plays an irreplaceable role in bridging the demand side and the supply side of the capital. And you also play a very important role in bridging the business between China and UK and the world. So thank you very much. So then we moving on to you, Bruce. So working at a leading fintech company that is exploring business very proactively recent year in the UK, how do you see the empowerment of financial industry in driving business growth?
Sure, thank you. Let me explain what we do. We are a payment service provider for SMEs who have the vision to do trading globally, especially on e-marketplaces. If you look at the industry, it's been growing rapidly over the past 5 years. Ant Group, we had a marriage with World First 2019. We acquired 100% of stake, and World First has been a genuine UK company 20 years ago. And after we made the acquisition, over the past 5 years, I was looking at my data, we grew the business by 10 times, with compounding growth rate, 60% every single year. And let me use one example to illustrate how we can help a small merchant who has the ambition to sell globally. Let's imagine you are a UK merchant, okay? You have the craft for something. You probably have suppliers, one in China, one in Vietnam, or maybe additional one in Turkey. And then you want to sell this product. You want to sell on marketplaces like OnBuy in UK. And you realize that you can make some money with Catch in Australia as well. And you want to hit the biggest market, Amazon US. So how are you going to do it? You're going to make sure you collect the money with Aussie dollar account, with US dollar account, with local sterling account. You have to make sure you convert the money at the proper rate. You hedge out the FX risk. And you have to make payment to your suppliers in Turkey, Vietnam, as well as in China. And when the hot season hits, you have to make sure you be able to borrow some money, right? Because you have to build up your inventory. And when you don't want to expand your operation, you want this particular account to accrue some sort of interest, right, for you. And there are moments where you want to have a credit card for your spending needs when you travel around. So who can do that? For a very small, tiny, yet a complicated client. They're doing global operations. And we're here to serve. Our multi-currency account is able to do all the things I just mentioned, and with one single platform. So to me, we are some sort of infrastructure. It's a tool. It's a way for people to make an honest living and can provide local growth. And it's not easy because we're dealing with multi-jurisdictions, and with the technology and with the proper licensing, we are able to provide such infrastructure to the SMEs around the globe.
Excellent, excellent, Bruce. Actually, the growth speed of World First and your contribution to the economy and to the SME is both incredible, actually. Actually, I want to say congratulations for your success in the past years. Okay, then our economist. Okay, Dr. Lenz, would you please?
Well, thank you. Financial empowerment. Let me answer this in 3 parts. First, generic point, second with respect to China, and third with respect to the UK. Financial empowerment in economic terms is defined as people or firms being able to make informed and effective decisions that improve their economic well-being and security. In a nutshell, it's about making the financial sector relevant and able to help people and firms in their everyday activity. And indeed, the first three speakers have very much touched on that. But an important part of financial empowerment, which I think is very relevant for our discussion today, is not often talked about, which is from the top down in terms of macroeconomic policy. Financial markets are evolving from a focus on inflation in recent years to a current focus on growth. And I would expect markets globally to be focused on debt in 2 to 3 years' time. So inflation to growth to debt. So in terms of where we are currently, financial empowerment from a macro perspective, from a policy perspective, whether it's for China, the UK, or other countries, is about delivering that growth so it doesn't add to that debt problem, and is about delivering growth so it's sustainable, as we've heard about from the speakers in the previous session. That's the first point. Second, from a Chinese perspective, China is at a very different stage of economic development to the UK. Its financial sector needs to deepen and broaden. It needs deeper and broader capital markets to move China up the value curve. It's the world's #1 global manufacturer, but in terms of business, professional, and financial services, it's still very much evolving. And we know from China that they clearly outlined strategy. Last year at the Economic and Work Council, it was about developing a financial powerhouse in China. 5 key themes were identified that are key to financial empowerment: technology, green, digital, financial inclusion, and pensions. It's about building the ecosystem in China. The third plenum that the ambassador touched on earlier took it one stage further, talked about this summer finance and high quality opening up. So financial empowerment is very much about helping China move up the value curve and how Britain can add a helping hand there. And the third aspect is here in Britain. Look, we have a very developed capital market. One aspect of that is making sure the City of London remains internationally competitive versus New York versus other emerging financial centres. But the second aspect, which is where financial empowerment really comes in, is making sure that the city plays a key role in terms of the in terms of the domestic economy here. And it's very much about positioning the UK economy to become stronger, more sustainable. But the role Bank of China plays is very much linked into Chinese investment coming into the UK, making the UK open to inward investment. It's about delivering that growth. And also the other side of it is helping financial services here in the UK help China as well. So it's about empowerment in delivering domestically for the UK and also allowing the UK with its financial expertise to help other countries and basically sell financial services into China as well. So 3 different broad aspects.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. Thank you very much for providing a comprehensive lecture to our audience. Okay, so but probably it will be better you save some place for other panelists to add on in the future. Don't make others nervous. Thank you, Dr. Lin. Okay, so Mr. Wu, thank you very much for your long journey, a flight from Beijing to London to join us today. So what's your views about the financial empowerment?
Perhaps the audience see that I'm the only one who is a little bit nervous. You know, I want to deviate a bit from financial empowerment, talk about intellectual empowerment. I have never got a chance to speak in a British forum like this. I want to say thank you for my friends in UK who helped me when I was quite young. In 1988, China don't have a public accounting profession. So the State Council of Chinese government goes out to various countries and ask the American Institute of CPA, say, can you help China train a few certified public accountants? And they say, no, 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 we only train people practice this profession in America. So they come to UK, the Chinese State Council people come to UK, and the ACCA said, yes, we will be open and train accountants for you. So then waived my tuition, because at that time, to pass to sit for examination with £100 is a lot of money, and send me textbook, and also set up the examination center in British Embassy. So in 1992, I became the first mainland Chinese qualified as ACCA, and then in 2002, I became a partner of Big Four, and then 2004, the flight attendants didn't believe me, and I get the chance to meet the Queen, in UK. So, so with all this, I never get a chance to publicly speak and say thank you, for my UK friends. And I deserve also an applause from the audience, because I only failed UK tax once. So I think, I'll stop here. I think they're talking about financial empowerment very well, but my empowerment really comes from you help me. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Actually, the professional service is very important for the growth of the financial industry itself. Actually, you are empower the financial service so that the financial industry can empower the real economy. Okay, thank you for your work that. So, okay, I think to summarize the first round of the points, financial industry serve as the backbone for economic activities, efficiently allocating capital, facilitating trade and investment, enabling risk management, and promoting global economic growth and integration. And financial empowerment is also crucial to unlock economic potential domestically and globally. So I would like to consult with our panelists. From your perspective, what are the emerging opportunities in China, the UK, and the partnership between those two countries that can shape the future of financial industry? So probably I still want to invite Mr. Wu to start.
I didn't prepare that you asked me the first round for this question. Chair Hufang, I think for me, I now lead the Deloitte China business, and our job as a professional accountant is to solve complex business problems for our clients. On the other hand, the second, and very important, is to improve the trust, in society. And, China is the second largest economy, but Deloitte China's revenue account less than 5% of Deloitte global revenue. That, in one hand, means there are so many opportunities for Deloitte China to grow, but on the other hand, it also means China has so much to go to improve the quality of our economy. So professional services is really a very important area that UK can support to develop in China. And I also want to share with you that from my perspective, Shanghai and Hong Kong are the global financial centers that we aim to become or we aim to sustain. But London is such a admirable global financial center. And the rules, the professionalism that we have learned from London, I think it's so much that we can copy. So really from my perspective, Chair, I hope in the future there will be more exchange in our area. And the Lord Mayor's visit to China, always there will be delegates from the professional services firms. And whether it's lawyer or whether it's accountants, this part is going to be very important. I'll just have one more last point that I learned from the ACCA examination. The most important theory for finance is CAPM, Capital Asset Pricing Model. When I was studying in China, during my university years, we were not allowed to study debit and credit system and compound interest because it's capitalism system. But when I studied ACCA, I learned the cost, capital asset pricing model. And whatever we do, collectively on this panel is to reduce the cost of capital, so that our economy will grow with more financial resources. So I think as professional services firms, helping our clients to address the risks they're facing, and by reducing the risks, we reduce the cost of capital. And the UK, as a pound, as an important currency, London as a global financial center, I think the capital flows between the two countries will be enhanced with all our collective efforts. I'll stop here.
Actually, very good point. You mentioned that the professional service would be a promising area for the collaboration between China and UK. That's a good point because that will enhance and the exchange of knowledge and the people's idea. Probably I just want to follow up with Dr. Lin's just described that actually China has prioritized 5 key areas of financial high-level development. And I think UK's financial expertise, especially in the sustainable finance, fintech, and the pension management, probably will better leverage upon that trend to do more business with Chinese counterparties in this regard. So I just, to add on your point. And next, I would like to turn to Tom. What's your expectation about the rising opportunities?
Thank you. Look, I'm very optimistic about the opportunities. I think Dr. Lyons talked very eloquently about London's necessity to both support the domestic economy, but also to be a globally relevant financial centre. Yes. As we sit here today, despite sometimes what you'd read in the press, London's ranked 5th this year in capital raising of any exchange in the world, just after the 2 US exchanges and the 2 Indian exchanges. So it's been a busy year. London continues to be the busiest market in Europe, but by a factor of about 3 to Frankfurt, which is the next sort of busiest exchange in raising equity. So work to do, but we're starting from a position of strength. And the reform agenda that we're currently on, and I know the minister sort of referred a little bit to this earlier, we've now been on a process over the last couple of years of very fundamental reform to the capital markets. We've just had a very big rewriting of the listing rules that went public in July and implemented then, to ongoing work around the prospectus regime, pension fund reform, that will do a tremendous amount to continue to sort of revitalise and continue the vibrancy of London as a financial centre. But then to your point specifically on what can we do with China more, I think there's a number of areas, and actually we've got a strong and proud track record of being a really constructive partner with China in a number of firsts. If you look back to the first Chinese sovereign bond to list outside of Greater China, it was on the London market. The first green bond to list outside Greater China, on the London market. The first green covered bond on the London market. You can see where I'm going here. Yes. The pioneering Stock Connect program that's now up and running between Shanghai and the Shenzhen Exchange and London. Again, London was the first exchange in Europe with whom that was made, and we've had 6 companies raise a total of $6 billion through that process before. I think we've got work to do. I think there's an opportunity to continue to work and revitalise the Stock Connect program as we go into next year. And we've had the CSRC, the Shanghai Stock Exchange and the Shenzhen Stock Exchange in our offices in the last few months talking about how they expect that to play out. So we're optimistic about that. We see opportunity for high-growth tech businesses from across China and the broader APAC region to look at the London market as a strong alternative. Poppy herself ran a very successful one in London for many years since it listed. And I think that they've shown the way and the art of the possible in the tech sector. Sustainable finance, huge area. Again, I don't want to hog the microphone for too long, but it was referred to by a couple of the speeches before, whether it's green bonds, the Green Economy Mark, highlighting what can be done in London, which has just been ranked the Sustainable Exchange of the Year for the 4th year in the last 5. So lots that we can do there. The last point, which I think is less talked about, is I think China has had the most phenomenal outbound investment program into a number of jurisdictions, where I think there's a real opportunity in areas where London has a natural affinity to those investment destinations to be a catalyst for providing liquidity and capital for the underlying businesses. So China, Africa, for example, is a huge theme, and people think sometimes about Chinese investment in Africa in sort of bridges and motorways and infrastructure and resources, but actually it goes much deeper than that in financial services, in consumer, in a variety of sectors, and London is, by some distance, the biggest international exchange for African securities. So I think there's some great opportunity to help Chinese owners of international assets recycle capital and provide, primary sort of petrol in the tank for companies, around other parts outside of China as well. So lots of opportunity. Too little time.
Brilliant, actually. Thank you for recalling several milestones of London's track record in helping China in the capital market. And I'm very happy to know that London Stock Exchange remains the top 5, right, among all the stock exchanges in the world. But may I ask a question? Do you have the ambition to be the top 1 in the world?
Always. That's why I get up in the morning.
So probably the shortcut is just to collaborate with China's enterprises and institutions as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Dr. Lens, I would like to turn to you now, because this year we all know a major change in UK is actually the new government is coming into power. We are very happy that UK will have a stable government for many years. Okay, it's a good thing. And we all know that the new government aims to foster the sustainable economic growth. So with this background, would you please give us more details and what's your thought about the rising opportunities of financial empowerment in that area?
Yeah, well, thank you. As you touched on in your question, and it very much followed on from the first session about the reset in terms of UK-China relations. We hope it's a stable government for a few years in the UK, but we're never quite sure at the moment. But it's, yeah, no, the joke is that we have had such instability in the UK, people now need to get used to a stable government. But the reset is a really positive development. But the reset is happening at many different levels. Bank of China, where I'm Senior Independent Director in the UK, signed a Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, with the UK government itself in the summer about biodiversity. And indeed, the chairman of Bank of China flew over to London specifically to have a face-to-face meeting with the Chancellor, probably last month or a good 4 or 5 weeks ago. And that went very well, and that was the week before that conversation that was mentioned in the first session between the Chancellor and the Vice Premier. So the reset is at the political level, but at the same time, there has still been a lot of intense activity at the business, professional, financial services and banking level already. Now, the economic and financial dialogue reset in January will be very important. Before this event, I just reminded myself of the 3 key takeaways from the last economic and financial dialogue, which, goodness, was 5 to 6 years ago. It's 2019. Mr. Hammond was then the Chancellor. We've had quite a few Chancellors in between since. But there were 3 main takeaways: to deepen strategic economic collaboration, to boost bilateral trade and investment, and to deepen financial links. In actual fact, the financial sector is key to all 3. in terms of the economic collaboration, given that the UK has so much to offer there and given the need of China to move up the value curve. The bilateral trade and investment naturally is in hand with the financial sector, but it's deepening the financial links. And those 5 areas that we mentioned, I think the UK can bring a lot to the table, not just on the issues that Tom's touched on, but when one looks at it further, London is a great place to do business in, but also a great place to do business from. So the Belt Road Initiative, China into Africa, China into the Middle East, China into other parts of the world. There's no reason why London in its own right cannot play a role there, as well as between the bilateral. And it's not just about investable assets that we need more of. One key aspect is the whole regulatory, legal, and infrastructure of the system in the financial sector in China. We want investable opportunities, but we want the infrastructure to be there in place, and we want the right incentives. So I think it's about building the framework for the financial sector as well as delivering the opportunities where the money can be invested.
Okay, thank you very much. It's actually all a good point. Probably I move on to John. So just now, doctor just compare, what 7 years ago, what's the implication now. So from their practical perspective, what's your view about their rising opportunities?
Yeah, thank you. From my practical observations from my role supporting Chinese companies coming to the UK, I see there are a lot of opportunities between the Chinese and the British economy, and also in its industries. And I think there are lots of synergies which complements each other. For example, under the new Labour government, I think the key is to grow the economy, right? To upgrade the infrastructure investments, and also the commitment to net zero strategies. And I think these 3 points where Chinese companies have significant opportunities, advantages in doing more business within the UK. For example, growing the economy, the UK government, what Poppy was mentioned, wants to attract foreign investments coming into the UK, doing more trade and doing more investments. And for Chinese companies, going abroad or China outbound is a mainstream in the China nowadays, right? They want to go outside to open new markets for their products and services. And the second point on infrastructure, I think the UK needs to spend, 700 to 750 billion pounds sterling in the next 10 years. And I think, the private sector will play a significant role into to funding this infrastructure, those including energy, renewable energies, which are really big size tickets, projects here in the UK. And also, we work very closely with our friends in the Department for Business and Trade. We work with the UK Export Finance. We work with the National Wealth Fund to unlock these private investments coming to the UK. In particularly, we work with them to build a gigafactory of batteries in the UK. We work with them on some of the offshore wind projects in the UK. So I think there are abundance of opportunities there, and there's a complementary relationship in terms of our economy and our industries.
Yes, actually, we are looking forward together to the infrastructure project, especially in the green areas. Okay, thank you for your point. So, Bruce, I think you are working in the most promising area because fintech, digital finance is actually transforming how people access to financial services. You are upset the world actually sometimes, upset the big banks like us, okay? So would you please share your perspective about the opportunities in the near decade?
Yeah, first of all, we work extremely well with big banks. So we're not trying to do without them, because the infrastructure, I think, needs everybody to work together to provide inclusive financial services for SMEs. If you look at the macro level, I think it's a huge opportunity. We are a big believer in e-commerce, right? Look at the UK. I think this is the 3rd largest e-commerce market. If you look at the spending per capita, it's probably ranked number 2. Look at the penetration of the water size, ranked number 2 as well. So it's a huge market, and we are seeing the hyper growth of the market as well. For example, this year we have registered 3 times more sellers, UK sellers, onto our platform. On the micro level, I think we have seen several trends. First, when you look at the Chinese merchants, because of the competition of marketplaces, they need to step up for the fulfillment, which means that they're going to localize their operation. We've seen companies registering entities in UK, paying VAT taxes, paying local taxes, hiring local people, doing the local fulfillment center, because they want to be competitive. Otherwise, it's difficult to win the heart of the consumers. At the same time, we also see a lot of the British local sellers. They are selling competitive products on platforms such as OnBuy, for example. But they do need to streamline their supply chains, right? So we've seen people selling either items into China or sourcing items from China. Canton Fair, for example, it's one of the biggest, B2B trade show in Guangzhou. We met with the KOLs from UK. We met with merchants or traders from UK, and to streamline their supply chain. And I think being able to provide payment rails or financial services is very important. But on the other hand, I agree with Wenjun's comments on a human factor, because a lot of times it's not the tools you don't have to stop you being extremely successful. It's the thoughts that stop you being very successful. So we also bridge the communication channels between China and the UK. We're hosting seminars to have successful merchants to sell their storylines, to share their experience, how to successfully sell into different marketplaces as well as different regions. So I think the encouragement, the knowledge sharing, the community, and all the service providers can unite to tell people a simple fact. It's not that hard to be successful if you really want to. So to me, all those things is the growth engine for the local economy. I truly believe in SMEs. I think they are the backbone of the true economy.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, can I conclude your point, along with the development of the cross-border fintech payment and along with the international pace of the fintech companies like Ant Group, we will witness a strong integration of the UK and Chinese market and the world. Can I understand like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's already the time. Now I'm going to open the floor to our audience questions. So if anybody want to raise question, would you please raise your hand, then a microphone will be handed over to you. Seize the opportunity. Why you are so quiet? I know some of you probably is going to sleep. Wake up, we are going to the end. Okay, please, this gentleman. So please state, please state your name and your organizations, please.
My name is Graham Perry, and I've followed China for many years. My query is this. What we've heard today is very interesting. Yeah. What we've got coming up is a potentially worrying report ordered by the Prime Minister, prepared by George Robertson and 2 other senior diplomats, which runs the risk of damaging China-British relations by putting China in the dock when it comes to the axis of evil. Now, I'm sorry to introduce politics into what is really financially and economically a get-together today. But this is the big uncertain issue, the overarching political relations between China and Britain. And I'd be interested to hear what members of the panel have got to say on this subject. Thank you.
Actually, you make me feel very embarrassed because I'm trying my best to avoid the political issues. But you bring me back in this situation. So my panelists, anybody can help me on this? Okay, yeah. Doctor, please.
Maybe I can. Let me answer it, coming up to it. We're giving a very positive view here, and I think it's right, but there are clear challenges. For instance, if we take Bruce's point on his previous one about SMEs, here in the UK, for the financial sector, we've got to fill funding gaps in terms of patient capital and money to SMEs. When you look at it from the Chinese perspective, the third plenum this summer talked about the market playing a bigger role and about having level playing fields. So you can have challenges from the financial sector itself. The challenges are not just from the political perspective, but you've asked the political question. The clear answer to your question is that when one looks at the UK with any other country around the world, there are issues, whether it's with the new US administration, whether it's potentially China, as you say. The clear issues have a clear red line in your relationship, which in some respects is how the UK government has been moving. And indeed, if you actually look at what the current government is saying, which is about a very positive relationship, is about on one side of the red line, you have issues such as defence, security, intelligence. They're handled by the politicians, and it's not really for us to delve into those details, although naturally we have an opportunity to speak on it. But on the other side of the red line, you have a clear relationship where business, finance, and trade can take place. And if one looks at the US, which has been far more critical than anything that you've just suggested, that has not stopped the US in recent years building and developing business, trade, and financial relationship. So it's about being clear, it's about both sides recognizing each other's sensitivities, but it's about having clear red lines where on one side there are the political issues to be addressed, whether the politicians want to address them in private or in public, it's up to them. And on the other side is the clear red line where trade, finance, and economics takes place. And what's really encouraging, in my view, is that when one looks at the leadership in Beijing and also the new government here in the UK, we're moving to that sort of positive, proactive development. So we shouldn't ignore it and hide these issues, but we need to actually put them in perspective.
Thank you. Anybody want to add on this point?
Let me be brave, and I still want to go back to Beijing over the weekend. I think this forum is great. You know, it's not only for UK audience, but also for Chinese audience. If it's for Chinese audience in Beijing, I would like to say our success, China's economic success in the last 40 years, coming from 3 aspects. One is promote a market economy. Yeah. Second is free exchange of information and knowledge. Third is respect professionalism. You know, people like Deloitte have a role to play. We are not espionage to US or UK. So I think we want to emphasize these 3 and join together to work for a better economy. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, can I also just to chip in? I think in the current political climate, I think the financial institutions such as us has an even bigger role to play to bridge the East and the West, to break down barriers, to promote understanding. For example, in June this year, HSBC UK, we led a group of high-tech life science companies to China for 1 week. And before the trip, all the clients had some, ask the question, is my laptop going to get confiscated at the border, or is it safe to download certain apps onto my phone? There are, this misinformation, this difference in information. But once they've been there for a week, meeting their potential partners, meeting companies, meeting governments, I think their view has changed significantly after the trip. Right? They see China as a fast-growing economy, a very proactive government to support foreign investments, and I think totally changed their perspective. So I'm thinking, HSBC UK, we facilitate this trade mission, the delegation, and I'm thinking just to that financial institutions, we have a responsibility to connect our clients globally with each other.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I think the solution is try to understand each other, know each other, respect each other, and whatever the challenge is, people can find a way out. So I think that's a conclusion for our panelists' point, right? But thank you very much, because you helped me to wake up the audience. Okay, probably I just give one more chance to questions. Okay, this gentleman. So which one? Okay, probably 2 questions, please.
Sorry, I apologize. As a non-British, non-Chinese person here, I come from Ireland, okay? But I specifically want to bring the question back to the financial services sector, and specifically want to ask Bruce about what's happening in World First, because I head up Ireland's only Asia think tank. It's called Asia Matters, but prior to this, I was Ireland's first chief executive in regulatory compliance in financial services. So how do you, Bruce, manage regulation? Because most regulation in financial services is from the US. Then you have the British regulator, you have the Chinese regulator, and despite Brexit, I hope you're doing lots of business in the EU. You have the EU regulator. How do you manage all that to succeed?
Yeah, it's actually not easy. We have a pretty large staffing around those functions. We localized teams trying to understand regulatory environments, right? Right now, there are a lot of rules, and sometimes they change, sometimes they conflict. We also not only we use in-house lawyers, but also we have extended a network of so-called external lawyers to help us out to figure out what can or cannot be done. I agree, there's no quick answer for that. We have to follow the rules, because otherwise we cannot run an operation on that kind of scale. We also have like direct conversations with regulators as well, because sometimes they ask, how you guys doing, right? Because they have, every single rule has intended consequence or design. But most of the regulators, they do care. They don't want to have the unintended consequences of certain rules. So I think conversations like that helps. And also we need to have the technology to make sure whatever we implement in our design can be carried out in real life. That's also very difficult because we may design some principle, but in real life things can just be different. So we, in-house, we built a very elaborated risk engine to detect any irregularities. We constantly reviewed our client profile, for example. If we go visit them, we talk to them, and if anything goes wrong, we probably take actions accordingly. I don't have a very good silver bullet kind of answer. It's just a process we have to go through.
Yes, actually, good question and good answer. Okay, the last question, please. Microphone, please. Probably you can use mine if you want.
I'll give it back. David Marsh from OMFIF. I've got a question about economics, but it does have some political overtones. In the decade between 2008 and 2018, we heard a lot about the revival of Chinese consumption. The idea was that one would have growth driven by internal demand and much less driven by investment and exports. That's gone into a bit of a reverse since COVID. And I wonder whether the panel think that we will get back to this, because that would actually solve some of the problems, this immense overcapacity in some industries, which are really driving a lot of companies, not so much in this country, but in places like Germany, into the ground. You know, we see this with Volkswagen. I don't know whether this is going to be very propitious for European-Chinese relations if too many companies in Germany go bust as a result of all this overcapacity.
Anybody take this question?
I'm happy to, but just because it's economics, but don't let me. Okay, well, look, the question has a very strong German bent to it. But in terms of China, the ambassador mentioned that so far this calendar year, China has grown at 4.8%. The target is 5%. China is moving to a slower trend pace of growth, and growth might likely become more volatile in the future than the past. But at 5%, even though it sounds like a slow rate of growth, let's remind ourselves that at 5%, China will add an economy the size of Poland to the world economy this year. And Poland is the 21st biggest economy in the world. So China is still an economic powerhouse, but you're right. In terms of a decade ago, the issue in China was about moving up the value curve. And indeed, the whole debate this afternoon is linked to the role the financial sector can play in allowing China to deliver on that high quality opening up. But the consumer side was part of that story 10 years ago about increasing the role of the consumer in the economy. I think that hasn't really been achieved as the Chinese wanted, but they've been the first to acknowledge that. But how can it be achieved now? One is about actually making sure that consumers have confidence about the outlook so they don't save as much. So that's about the pension side comes in there, about using the financial sector to allow people to save. And it's also about deepening and broadening the capital markets, because over the last decade, people had the choice between buying property, putting the money in the bank, or indeed putting it in the equity market. And now the property sector is going through an adjustment phase. So the financial sector plays a key role in allowing the consumer to play a bigger role in the economy in the future. But in terms of Western Europe, when one looks, Western Europe, unfortunately, is the slow growth region of the world economy. We're seeing a shift in the plate tectonics economically and geopolitically. And Western Europe, including Britain, including France, including Germany, and including Italy, need to reposition themselves. And I think Germany is unfortunately the sort of sick man of Europe at the moment, but they can't blame that on China. Let's be quite frank. It's self-made. But the Chinese story has changed for Germany as opposed to an export market. China is now exporting into Europe. Adding tariffs to electric vehicles is not the right approach, but what we're seeing globally is industrial policies, whether it's subsidies, etc., coming to the fore. But China is moving up the value curve.
Yeah, Dr. Nance, if I may just add on, I think the most important is we should understand China is currently pursuing a high-quality development profile, rather than just talk about their growth speed. So the high-quality development, including the high-quality development of the financial industry.
Absolutely.
Right, I think we already have discussed what the opportunities arising from this trend. But of course, from the financial empowerment, I think probably, Bruce, you can just summarize how can we empower the industry fundamentally? Yes.
I think the word overcapacity is a very interesting word. I used to work for investment banking. I was a trader. Sure, yeah.
Evil looks.
Okay.
Yeah, we must.
Okay, so it's a one-liner.
Finish that.
Yes, sure. I used to be a trader, so I long positions, I short positions. When I sell my position, would I say my position is overcapacity? Trading, by the very nature, doesn't matter you deal with physical goods or you deal with financial assets. It's a deal, right? It doesn't matter I'm overcapacity on certain credit names or I'm overcapacity on IBM stock, but somebody want to buy IBM stock, I want to sell, I struck a deal. The same thing, personally, I think it's human, we have been trading for the past 400 years, right? Ever since we are able to build those big ships. And it's always the exchange of perceived value. If you want to strike a deal, you strike a deal. So I don't view trading as overcapacity. If you people want to dive into it, right? For example, it's a very compounding factor why certain countries don't make certain products. It's just the natural gift of manufacturing certain products will be limited. which has to be resolved by trading. That's the way I look at it. In terms of the competitiveness of a certain product in a certain country, it could be a very profound reason to impact the competitiveness as well. It could be the labor policy, it could be the energy policy, it could be a lot of different policies to, as a result, resulting certain products in certain country. If you make it, you may or may not be competitive. So that's the way I look at the overcapacity. But how to propel the growth? I think we need to figure out a way to lower the barriers, because the higher the barrier, it just makes things more difficult, especially for smaller guys to deal with situations more difficult. It diminishes people's ambition, it reduces people's desire for success, and as a service provider, I hope that with technology, with proper services, we can make the life easier for a lot of the entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. I think we appreciate all the contributions for our panelists, and we also appreciate your active participation. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the rest of the forum.
Thank you, Madam Hu Feng. Thank you. That's okay. We are going to now set up the second panel discussion, and we just have to change the water, the glasses, and the name cards. This will take a minute or two. Please stay where you are and get ready for panel discussion number 2, which I will announce shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready now for the second panel discussion, and the title of it is Innovation-Driven and Sustainable Development, Shaping the Future in the Age of Technology. And to help unravel that long title, I'd like to invite the chair of the panel to the stage. Please, would you come to the stage, Arnab Das, Global Macro Strategist of Invesco. Thank you, Arnab. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, pray silence for our chair of this panel. You have 45 minutes, starting now.
Okay, so if I could ask the rest of the panelists to come up and join me on stage, that'd be great. Switch. Okay. Okay. Well, it's great for me to be here, moderating this panel about corporate innovation, sustainable development, and growth. And I think we have a great panel to discuss these issues. For me, it's going to be a real learning experience because I'm a top-down macro person, and the panel is much more expert on these issues than I am. So I'm going to be learning as we go. But why don't we first start with some introductions. Maybe I'll turn first to Wafa Jaffrey to introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself, your firm.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Wafa Jaffrey. I lead our energy strategy practice for KPMG. I have had the distinct pleasure of being at COP last week and a little bit of this week, so really getting into the weeds of how we're going to drive sustainability and energy transition through the rest of the globe. I am, just a bit about myself, I am a one-trick pony. I've only done energy throughout my career, so started off in the industry, had the pleasure of being a civil servant for 2 years, working for the UK government, before really starting and pushing our energy transition work forward. Really looking forward to the panel and the discussion that we're going to have. So thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. And Bono, over to you.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. So my name is Bono Ge from BYD UK, country manager of BYD UK. So 16 years with BYD, and actually we set up the company here in 2013. So we did some electric buses here and also energy storage as well. BYD actually is a simple company. All the businesses surrounding energy. So we do the energy collection. Basically, we're manufacturing solar panels, and then we do the energy storage, so we manufacture batteries, and then we also do the energy utilization. Basically, we manufacture electric cars, but not only electric cars, but also electric buses, trucks, forklift trucks, and whatsoever. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Georgie. Hi, everyone. Is it on? Should be.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Xiao Xiaozhu is my name. I'm very glad to be here today and having a discussion. I'm a digital operating partner at KKR, one of the leading investment firms in the world. I've been there for the last 4 or 5 years, focusing on digital and tech innovation, so creating value with the portfolio companies that we own through digital and technology means. I think it's particularly exciting because the two biggest trends that we're seeing and investing behind is one, digitalization, and two, really sustainability. And I think a lot of things that we're doing is really focused on these two themes, and there's a lot of value to be driven across companies that across all sectors on these two themes. Before KKR, I was actually a tech entrepreneur myself, built quite a few tech startups and started my career at Boston Consulting Group. Very happy to have the discussion today.
Excellent. Maurits?
Yeah, my name is Maurits van Tol. I represent Johnson Matthey PLC, based here in the UK. A little bit about myself: 31 years in the chemical industry, global technology, innovation, and commerce, and very, very happy to be here. Last 15 years, also strong drive around sustainability. Joined Johnson Matthey 5 years ago and a member of the executive committee and responsible for one of the 4 businesses of Johnson Matthey. It's called Catalyst Technologies. And during the conversation, I hope to explain a little bit in more detail what we actually do, helping our customers, helping nations transition from fossil to net zero. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure we'll have the opportunity for that from yourself and from everybody else on the panel. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started with the first topic, big picture, the clean energy transition. Maybe I can actually start with you, Maurice, on this front, right? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you see the transition unfolding in this quite complicated environment that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think what we see around the world is many nations are moving towards a net zero kind of target, no matter the year, 2030, 2050, 2060, 2070, when you talk about India. But at least, try to move away more and more from fossil feedstock, in particular, of course, for the growth part in our energy. Let's not forget that energy consumption is still growing like crazy around the world, so at least make sure that that's more renewable. And what we see is that there is a very strong interest nowadays. Classically, what we do at Johnson Matthey is our customers come to us and they have coal, gas or oil, and they say, I want to have methanol, hydrogen, ammonia, I want to have fertilizers, I want to have fuels, I want to have specialty chemicals, I want to have surfactants. And we design the clever bit in between. So we engineer the plants and develop the catalysts that help with the conversion. These are chemicals that help with the conversion of raw materials to the product that the customers want to sell. And we see the demand now very strong for alternative raw materials. And that is what you see as part of this energy transition as well. Nowadays it's about, can we use biomass, residual biomass? Can we use municipal solid waste rather than put it on a landfill? Can we convert it into something useful and sell it as methanol or what have you? And CO2 as a feedstock linked to low carbon hydrogen. Customers come to us and we can help them convert that into surfactants, into methanol. So there is a very strong drive around the world to have lower carbon intensity chemicals and specialty chemicals, and that is very closely linked nowadays to the energy market. So the chemical space is now more and more completely linked to the energy space because of, for example, hydrogen and its related energy vectors. So it is a very, very dynamic field, and collaboration between nations can just help accelerate bringing those kind of clean tech solutions to scale. So I'm very excited about also being here talking about how can we collaborate, because you need to bring a new industry to scale, and no one country can do that on its own.
Okay, so maybe, Zaf, I can turn to you,
Sure.
given your one-trick pony energy and also public policy background, and pick up from there on these issues of collaboration and progress, indeed.
And especially between UK and China, right? I don't know if people are aware, but UK came out with its Clean Power 2030 plan. And that was the National Electricity System Operator that published it. And what we're doing from 2023 to 2030 is going to be trebling of offshore wind, 15 to over 45. Trebling of solar, again 15 to over 45, doubling of onshore wind, and increasing batteries by 5 times, just in the UK, just in the next 7 years. Or, well, now 6 years left, not that much time left, so just in the next, or 5 actually, because, you know, we're almost, it's almost New Year. Now, you cannot do that without global collaboration, but also collaboration from a supply chain perspective. And, you know, we have you here, Hong Dae, from BYD, and what we've talked about in batteries. That's absolutely critical in terms of what is required for you to deliver. More than that, we need investment from a UK perspective in the infrastructure. So for offshore wind, for renewables, etc., we need to attract that. The minister earlier mentioned Red Rock as an example of UK-China collaboration, and that asset taking FID to build out offshore wind. And then more than that, it's something, Moritz, you've also touched on. In order to get us to net zero and look beyond just the power system, we also have hydrogen, CCUS supply chains, as well as investments that are required just from a UK perspective to get us to net zero. And then if you start looking globally, the scale and the requirement just increases and increases.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Would either of our other panelists, either of you, Hong Dae and Xiaozhi, have anything to add on this, on the clean energy transition in general terms, maybe from BYD's perspective to start?
Yes, a really simple story. So when we start to promote the energy storage from 2016, so by that time, National Grid launched a service called EFR, Enhanced Frequency Response. Basically, that's the auxiliary service from the grid. By that time, the battery is super expensive. I remember that's roughly $1,000 per kilowatt hour. And our first project actually is 250 kilowatt hour. But today, if you look at the BYD cars, every car carries 60 kilowatt hour. So that's a tiny project if you from today's perspective. And then I just talked to my colleague. The current project, the biggest one we have in the UK, is 650 megawatt hours. So that's, you can see the scale. And today, I think the battery price is also really reasonable. It's roughly something between $150 to $200 per kilowatt hour, make it more affordable, not only for the end users, but also for the grid operators. At the moment, for example, when we started tiny projects, but now we have almost a 2 gigawatt hour battery on the UK grid. That's roughly 25% market share in the UK for the grid scale energy storage. And in the meantime, we have 1.2 gigawatt hour battery being built at the moment. If you look European-wide, especially Germany, because Germany, that's the biggest home energy storage market, we get nearly 500,000 home energy storage installed in Germany. So we have roughly 21% market share. So in general, you can see the transaction from the energy sector. The battery are more affordable because it's being drive the scale. And the skill really from electric cars as well make the battery price more affordable. It means actually more and more people will have the battery energy storage. Yep. The other story is, I think 3 days ago, or 10 millionth electric cars come off from the production line. So the first 5 million cost the BYD 20 years, but the second 5 million only cost us 15 months. So I think that's also shows the trend about the energy transaction.
Absolutely, classic kind of cost curve, kind of experience. Jiajie, would you want to add anything to? No.
I'm the digital expert here, so I'll let the sustainability experts answer that one.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we can switch gears a little bit and talk about ESG and sustainable development. Would you want to take that issue up?
And start. Yeah. Look, I mean, we're an investment firm, so I think the best way to kind of illustrate maybe how we think about ESG is how we actually then invest into companies in this space. And I think the most probably relevant example here is ERM. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's basically environmental resources management. It is the largest pure play sustainability and impact advisory and consultancy firm in the world. It was the first. KKR invested 2 years ago. We're the largest shareholder. It's headquartered in London, 8,000 employees. China is an important market. It's the first ESG advisory also in China since 1994, and now has over 100 employees also in China. But that's a great example where UK and China actually invest into a company that propels sustainability best practices across the globe actually, and it's really an example of how we think about this not only as an investment trend, because obviously there's a lot of regulation, there's broad-based needs for ESG capabilities driven by regulations, but also investor requirements, supplier and customer demand for basically all companies across all sectors, especially of course in sectors with heavy carbon footprint like energy and mining, but also governments and a lot of other sectors as well. And the way we think about it is not just to solve specific problems, but actually to invest into the company that basically advises and helps all other companies on fulfilling these sustainability agendas and regulations, right? And all of these regulations keep changing, and so the needs keep changing, and the way how you go about setting the right strategic agenda in each company, the right targets, the right KPIs also change, right? And that's, I think, is just a sustainable macro trend that we're very happy to sort of invest in a long-term way behind, and it's part of our core strategy, investing into long-term secular trends. So it's really about compounding growth with no short-term exits that we want here. We're really backing this company. And it's really also, on the second part, it's aligned with our own ESG standards and practices we embed into every company we invest in. We have very strict requirements, and really not just, as a way of doing marketing, but it's really embedded into the management targets and incentives, as well as, the recurring part of the board agenda. And so we also mandate, obviously, the ERM to actually help all of our other portfolio companies in setting the right ESG agenda. And I think the last point is just more broadly, KKR invests out of 2 funds dedicated to ESG and sustainability themes. One is our impact fund, which focuses on mid-market opportunities, and then we have a dedicated climate fund as well that goes after more emerging innovative climate tech opportunities.
Okay, I guess maybe I'd just say one editorial intrusion here. And it strikes me that, what's very interesting about ESG is that this is a kind of push that began in the private sector, right? It's a big, all of these issues, big coordination challenges, and normally you would think, it would be very difficult for the private sector to do these sorts of things by itself. And if anything, governments had been at least in the past I would say, in the back seat. And maybe in some countries that is, going on, continuing, maybe getting worse. We don't have to go into it specifically, but that does seem to be a bit of a challenge. And so for me personally, I think it's quite encouraging that the private sector has taken a bit of a lead in this area. and done quite a lot. There's been, some people would say there's been greenwashing and various other kinds of setbacks have taken place. But nevertheless, from my vantage point at Invesco, it's a big US asset management company, what we see is a lot of demand from our clients for strategies and investments that are ESG compliant in various ways. So I think it's quite encouraging. Maybe we can stick with you again, Xiaozhi, and talk about the digital transformation and its role in sustainable investment and in the China-UK relationship as well.
Sure. I think, look, I mean, you talked about, net zero goals, right? That's the first and foremost of this whole climate and ESG agenda is really about. Net zero, how do you achieve that? This really drives, or it actually requires, an electrification of our grids because we want to shift from fossil fuels more into renewables. And grid electrification, what does that require, right? That requires the transformation and replacement and redeployment of legacy grid networks, right? That is just not, set up for the new requirements around electricity. So just another example of a company that we recently invested in is IQGeo. It's a UK company as well that was listed at the London Stock Exchange. We took it private and acquired the company. It's a Cambridge-based leading geospatial software business. What does it do? It provides AI-based geospatial software and services to support leading operators within the telecoms and utility sectors to design and operate fiber and electricity networks. So it's exactly behind this trends, because you need to have other companies and operators that, build, run, deploy, and maintain these kind of new electrical grids. But in order to do that, you need to actually have sophisticated software and data system to tell you where exactly to place what kind of components, right, to kind of really redeploy what's needed. And this company is specialized on this kind of AI-driven data to help these companies to kind of run and operate additional new fiber as well as electricity grids. I think that the growth is really underpinned by rapidly increasing demand for fiber rollout, right, across all countries. We want faster telecom and broadband speed, as well as the increasing electrification of grid infrastructure for net zero goals. The company has a big footprint in Europe and US, and increasingly also in Asia, with China obviously being a big future potential market that we want to kind of help expand in. That's just one example of how we invest behind the net zero ambition.
Rafa, maybe I come to you. I see you nodding.
I was nodding very heavily because of ERM. We've actually worked with them and partnered with them. They're a great outfit in terms of having the technical know-how of how to help companies decarbonize. So together we are actually able to collaborate and help clients reach or set up their decarbonization journeys. I think it's also really amazing to see the amount of capital that's going in. I mean, that was a massive theme at COP in terms of increasing the financing that we're seeing. We're currently at about 1.3 trillion a year of investment in climate technologies. That has to quadruple as quickly as possible if we're going to keep to the Paris Agreement. I think from the perspective of digital and AI, I think it's great that we're seeing the investment, and it's absolutely a part of the solution, but we also have to remember that it is going to create a problem in the short term, right? So if we look at AI and data centers right now, the demand is somewhere about 250 terawatt hours, approximately, a year of electricity. By 2027, that's going to double, and then it's going to double again, and it's going to double again, mainly because, right now, AI data centers, or just data centers, represent about 10% of Ireland's overall consumption. It's quite a large number from an electricity point of view. Sorry? Exactly, you are, and that's brilliant, but it's a fairly large number, and they're going to be developing in the UK, they're going to be developing in Paris, and so on and so forth. So, we do need to meet that energy challenge as well. So whilst digital and AI is going to be a massive part of the solution, in the short term, we do need to think about how we're going to respond to the energy challenge that it creates.
Do you want to say anything about the use of nuclear power plants in this?
Of course. I mean, I think from a US perspective, and we've seen Google invest heavily into SMR technology, which is small nuclear reactors. And I think that is something DOE, Department of Energy in US, is going to pick up and then propel. My assumption is US is probably going to be the first in terms of getting that out there. We've seen UK, try and fund SMR technology and implement the first of a kind. I think it would be great if China was involved in that and to be able to push that along forward for the other, for its own energy demand, because it's so. I think from a energy intensity and base load point of view, which is how these data centers run, it would be a great solution. But the problem with something like nuclear is it's always 10 years away. Or at this point in time, it's 10 years away till you actually get the push. So it is one of the things we hope to see from the Trump administration, that there is a push on SMRs to be able to reduce the overall energy not intensity, but emissions intensity of the grid.
Right, while maintaining a very reliable,
stable force, yeah.
Indeed. Anybody else on the panel want to dive in on this issue? No?
I probably can say a few words because in the electric car field, mainly everyone's talking about two lanes. The first lane actually is electrification because you need to get your car electrified. And that one is really mature because for the time being, the battery price is more and more affordable. It makes electric cars more and more affordable. So the second lane really is digitalization because a lot of people, the reason why they choose electric cars partly is because that's more environment friendly. But the second thing actually is smart. For example, our cars, and we just ask all the retailers to do the 5-step to introduce BYD cars. The first one basically is you get an NFC key. Use your phone, tap it on the mirror, open the car, step in the car with your clients, and then use the voice control to open the window and also open the aircon, open the seat heating. And then the third one is entertainment function. You can do a karaoke there because you can install a lot of app. You can also watch a lot of video there, so you can entertain yourself. And then the next one is once you finish an introduction inside the car, you come out of the car, use the V2L. V2L stands for vehicle to load. Basically, you can discharge your energy to a coffee machine. And then you can make a coffee for your clients to say, well, let's sit down. I'll give you more information. Then the next level is the electric cars will be part of the smart grid, right? So you park your car there, and then you want to avoid the high tariff. Because today, for example, some utility company like Octopus Energy can offer 7p per kilowatt hour from the midnight. And then some charger and the car can be smart enough to follow the tariff. You connect your charger with your car, but the charging process doesn't start because your car will follow the tariff. Once the tariff is low, and the charging will start. So that's number one. It's called V1G, basically smart charging. And you just try to avoid the car will be charged during the high tariff. And then the next level is called V2G. So V2G stands for vehicle to grid. It means actually not necessarily you only get the energy from the grid. You can actually feed the energy back to the grid to make some money there. And to make actually, because the grid might be congested, the grid may need to take a lot of power from, the power stations, might be solar, might be nuclear power, but it can also take the energy from your cars to make the car can be used as energy storage, not only store the energy generated from the solar panels, but also can store the energy for the grid. So to make the total grid more sustainable and make the grid have less conjunctions and make the price eventually more affordable for everyone.
Excellent. Okay. Maybe we can switch gears again and start to talk a little bit about the role of policy in supporting all of this and innovation in particular, and if there are any lessons to be learned from China, from the UK, Lawrence, do you want to?
Yeah, I think it's a very important topic. I think when you look at examples, you know, UK wants to move to net zero, China as well. China wants to move away from coal. I just said we have technologies to do that. So it's great if countries sit together and compare their roadmaps and say, hey, how can we help each other achieve our goals? And in the UK, we have a lot of technologies that can be applied in China. I have 1,000 colleagues working in China for Johnson Matthey. We can help deploy these technologies. And that means that, and the Chinese are very, very good in bringing new technologies to scale and manufacturing to scale very, very quickly. So that is deployment of low carbon technology at scale very, very quickly. Benefits the planet, benefits the competitive position of China, because all of a sudden they have low carbon intensity products, which we then can consume and import into the UK, which will also contribute to the fact that we then lower our collective carbon footprint. So it is all about this dialogue and working together and say, how can also governments support such a journey? Certainly when it is about first of a kind, new technologies. Initially they're more expensive, but if countries collaborate and say, you know, a kind of contract for difference, or we subsidize the first ones to bring it to scale, so that the price of these low carbon intensity products is the same that can be charged to the final consumer, the final consumer will say, that's nice, I have a lower footprint and it doesn't cost me a lot more. And that brings then the demand to scale, because very often what you see now is that on the supply side, many of the technologies are ready to scale up, but on the demand side, demand's not there yet. So it's, again, collaborate, sit together, and think about ingenuitive systems and collaborations and schemes that can benefit from the strength of both countries that are complementary, I think.
Yeah, excellent. It strikes me, you know, one of the things that I observe as a kind of outsider from this field, and of course, as an outsider from China, is that the authorities have been very successful in sort of starting processes, catalyzing, and then creating these so-called sandboxes where there's an enormous amount of competition. And I think that's a big part of getting these technologies, you know, competitive and to scale very, very efficiently. I think there's a lesson, an object lesson in that for the rest of the world.
Certainly with the new government, it's quite unbelievable. 21.7 billion they plow into low carbon hydrogen production. So we bring our technologies to scale with our customers. Then it's all proven. You know, you can license it from us. We warrant that it works at whatever scale you want. And in that, from that sandbox, you have all of a sudden a massive export opportunity, which helps other countries become more competitive, lower carbon intensity, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a win-win. And again, it is about this collaboration, like you say.
I saw you, Zafar, nodding again and again.
Oh, I nod a lot. Sorry. No. Of course. I mean, I'm ex-government, so you know. I mean, we used to do this where we would get other countries to come in and talk about the policy that we were designing. We had we also had a Chinese delegation in. I think from a UK perspective, I had the pleasure of working on the National Wealth Fund and the setup of that with Green Finance Institute. And I think, again, that provides a really great opportunity for UK and China to collaborate, because there is, you know, manufacturing and facilities to be set up in the UK, but we do need that additional investment, not just from UK PLC, but from outside. And again, with BYD and others, it would be a great, I mean, you keep saying it's a simple company. I think it's an amazing one. And what you've described is far from simple in terms of what your EVs can do and what your batteries can do and how you've scaled. Again, having operations like that in the UK, given the ambition that we have, is going to be absolutely critical. Sorry about the nodding, though. I do have a habit of doing that a lot.
No, the nodding is good. That's great. Would you want to add anything from BYD perspective?
Well, you talking about China, so I just want to share a bit of story about the Shenzhen, because that's where our head office is located. I think Shenzhen also started to promote electric buses something like 2010 and 2012 and things like that. So there is no experience. Actually, it's a brand new way. So you cannot copy, you cannot learn from others, because that's a new technology. All about electric cars are two things that are really crucial. One is infrastructure, charging infrastructure. The second one is the charging cost, the operation cost, the total cost of ownership, right? So the two things are really matters. So the first one, I think the Shenzhen municipality, they did a great job. So always get incentive to get electric buses on the street. So we get roughly 1,500 electric buses on the street. And then the government also working with the bus operators, because all public sectors, they set up some charging infrastructure there. Of course, because the bus operation mileage is not huge in the beginning, but gradually we show there's a economy benefit and it's sustainable. Then later, the Shenzhen government just convinced all the taxis to be electrified. And the taxis can also utilize the charging infrastructure, which was set up for the buses. So they can share the network. Then there's more investment because they think, oh, it makes sense because you don't lose money by setting up the charging infrastructure there, because the taxis almost 24 hours on the road, because the Chinese taxis are two shift and they're always on the road. So they can do easily 400-500 kilometers, 300-400 miles every day. So then they utilize the infrastructure, make sure the infrastructure are better utilized. Then the investors notice, well, that's a good investment. Let's set up more charging infrastructures. Gradually, is for the private people, for the general public people to consider electric cars. The charging infrastructure is already there with a reasonable cost. So I think that's a good case study for other areas to learn from. But because that's the same thing that's the same challenge we are facing in the UK as well, because the charging infrastructure is a bit unbalanced. Some good cities have really, really good charging infrastructure, but if you go to rural areas, it's really hard to find a charger, right? And you're not assured if you can charge your car, especially your SOC is really low. The second thing is the charging cost is super high, because today, if you go to a rapid charger, they will charge you 85 pence per kilowatt hour. That's really high.
It's ridiculous. I've had both experiences: range anxiety and ridiculous out-of-pocket expenses. So
yeah, and also you can see the government is focused on a lot of OEM because the ZEV mandate make everyone is panic at the moment. So they try to sell more and more electric cars, but the government's requirement is 22%. But there's still 78%. That's even bigger than 22%. So our strategy is we provide electric cars, all electric cars, BEVs, to the 22% market. But we also provide our DM technology, dual mode technology, which is a super PHEV, plug-in hybrid, and that roughly gave you something like 4.5 liters per 100 kilometers. It's more sustainable, more eco-friendly than the ICE vehicles. So that's our answer. But that's also a good lesson learned in China as well, because last year we sold roughly 3 million cars. 50% of them are battery electric cars, another 50% are plug-in hybrid, which is our DM technology. So I believe the government and also the regulators need to consider that as a lesson learned as well.
Okay, excellent. Maybe we can finish off before some Q&A and discussion with the audience about public-private partnership and collaboration in general, maybe financing as well. Maybe Moritz, would you like to start on this area? I mean, in a way, we've touched upon it a bit, but maybe...
I think I touched on quite a few of the elements that I wanted to address. I think it's all again here about the collaboration and having, I think also it's like as much free movement of people, technology, goods, minerals. Yeah, we also recycle minerals. We do that here. We do it in China for reuse and what have you. It is about, it's about teaming up in that sense, and also again looking at each other's competences, core competences, strengths, and bring battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids to the UK to reach a net zero goal. And we develop, we produce fuel cell elements in China for the Chinese markets to help the Chinese with their hydrogen-powered fuel cell buses and trucks. So in that sense, it's again by comparing notes and see how can you work together. And there's a lot possible if you have that free information exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. As a public policy person, what would you add?
I mean, I think you have to recognize the importance of it. I mean, you've talked about what the government has done in just one region in terms of rolling out electric vehicles. It's not just about, public-private partnership when it comes to investments. It's also about the policy design that you have. So, when I was in government, we were designing the CFDs that Moritz you'd referenced. And it was all about, ensuring that we were providing a stabilization mechanism for renewable investments such that it could attract private investment. I would see that as a kind of a public-private investment partnership as well. We've seen that in some of the regulated assets. We've tried to do that in nuclear now, so on and so forth. But it can come in a whole bunch of different forms, recognizing that what you're trying to do is scale technologies, new technologies, and develop them to commercialization.
Okay, excellent. Jiajie, would you want to add anything from your perspective? No? Okay. Maybe before we turn to the audience for some questions, if you have any, maybe I can say the Brexit, the B word, and ask if you think that there's anything practical that any of you that Brexit, the UK having left the EU, confers more freedom to do things in a different way, with or without, with China perhaps, or on the UK's own, in this area of sustainable development and the transition. Anyone? No?
Well, I can give it a go because originally I was born in the EU. I live in the UK now, right? So, and I have moved to the UK in the midst of Brexit. So, in that sense, it was
very brave.
It was very brave. It was counterflow, 1.6 million out and me in. so that was quite something. But I think how I look at it is, first of all, the EU. Not everything in the EU is wonderful. Coming from the EU, yeah, it's 27 countries that do not really collaborate a lot better than they did many decades ago. So that's very unfortunate. But it's still a very large market, right? And I think when you look at the UK, it's for me, I would two things of advice. Make sure you keep that connection to the EU, very good. But take the freedom that you have now to establish contacts, strengthen contacts with other nations more quickly than you could have done probably when you would have been in the EU. Now that you're out, at least make sure that we connect like some other very successful countries did that are a bit more neutral in that sense and benefit from that current situation. So it is an opportunity. The last years, the GDP growth has been 6% below what it should have been. So that opportunity has not been grasped. And I think there is an opportunity there, take it. But you need to take it at speed because other countries collaborate with each other and they don't wait for you.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Okay, well, and we've covered a lot of ground here. Maybe there's some questions and ideas that people in the audience have. We have about 5 minutes. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. And yes.
Hi there. I am Colin from Tusspark. We help innovative companies, big and small, from the UK as you go to China. And I was just curious, I want to address BYD and Johnson Matthey. What practical ways do you feel that the UK and China can cooperate? And sometimes I wonder, what value can we continue to give and to provide to China? Because China is leading in sustainability. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, excellent question.
Okay. Firstly, as you can see, the Chinese market, especially EV, is really, really competitive. So we got big population, but we selling 25 million new cars every year, but we get 100 brands. And then you can imagine how competitive it should be, because if you don't be renovative, you don't provide better service, and then you need to leave the game, right? But in the UK, for example, there's roughly 26 brands here, but it's a 2 million market. So compared to China, UK is a less competitive market. And in China, every month, probably even every week, you see a new model launch. But in the UK, I think we get roughly 100 models on the market, especially electric cars, for the most of the manufacturers. It's still less competitive. What we try to see is, because the skill in China, and especially electric cars, so it help the manufacturers drive the cost more affordable. The battery is one example, but also some other supply chains, like the heat pumps, a lot of components on motors and those type of things on the car. So it drive the components more and more affordable. It also gave China a full supply chain regarding electric cars. So that's the core strength of the Chinese auto industry. And I think the other thing we can bring from China to here is we can provide the people a better choice and more affordable. So if you look at the cars here, especially the ICE models, because the Chinese market is so super competitive, so we always offer you a full package. You don't need to pay £1,000 to get a heat pump. You don't need to pay £750 to get a metallic paint. You get everything in place. You don't need to pay £1,000 to get HUD or whatsoever. So you get good configuration on the cars itself and make the cars more affordable here. Originally, probably, you can only drive a certain level of cars, but actually with all the Chinese EV products, you probably can go level up. So that's basically the advantage the Chinese auto industry can provide to the UK. But of course, I think UK, there is also a lot of great technologies here as well. So that's the Chinese companies need to get, because here we get so many good engineering companies, high-tech companies, like also the autonomous driving and those type of things. A lot of things are being developed in the UK as well. And UK also have a lot of great universities, a lot of technologies, niche technologies need to be, massive productive. But actually China also get a big market there for the technologies. So for the two countries, there are so many areas, common benefits to work with each other.
Yeah, it would be very good to see more of that.
Yeah, and from my side for Johnson Matthey, but also as an individual, maybe give a little bit of an idealistic answer, if that's okay. We have in the former panel, there are differences between the countries, right? With all countries, that was mentioned in the former panel. And that's for the major differences, the politicians need to discuss those, because we have other topics, business topics, planet topics, that we just need to discuss and solve together. Because we all struggle with climate change, all of us. It doesn't matter which country you are at, we all struggle. A little bit more, a little bit less, depending on where you are, but we all have a common problem. And as a father, I'm very concerned about that. And I'm very proud to work for Johnson Matthey, where we have this suite of technologies that can help. So for me, the dialogue between the UK and between China is very, very important. Because that dialogue should be on how can we deploy each other's technologies, insights, digital, whatever it is, to accelerate these roads toward net zero for both countries and for the benefit of the planet, because then we all benefit from that. So let's look at the things that we have in common and leave the differences for others to discuss. And I think that would help us as inhabitants of this planet. And even if you don't think that climate change is real, it makes business sense, because I believe that the growth going forward will be in clean tech. So in that sense, why not continue that collaboration, intensify it further? And it can be done, because with Johnson Matthey, we are supported extremely well by the UK government, and we are supported extremely well by the Chinese government for more than 30 years. We're very happy to be in both countries. So it can be done. Don't discuss the differences. Discuss what we can do together to make sure that we that also have an inhabitable planet in 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 or 1,000 years from now. And I think look at the similarities between the two.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. I see we've run out of time, but it's very optimistic and very encouraging and very thoughtful. So thank you very much, and please join me in thanking the panel as a whole.
Thank you to Arnab Das and the panelists. And Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the conclusion of the formalities this afternoon, and we'd like to thank all the speakers for sharing their thoughts, and we once again applaud and express our gratitude, especially to you as you're now on the stage. So let's have a big warm round of applause. Thank you. And if you just remain there for a moment while I conclude, we want to thank our sponsors and organizations. The platinum sponsors are Bank of China London branch, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China London branch, Omada and Jeku UK, Kwaicho Mutai. That's a very, very strong spirit, by the way. So I had a little taste earlier, so if I'm going to stumble on my words, it's because it's over 50% proof, and available at Harrods and Selfridges, I'm told. Our gold sponsors are China Unicom Europe Operations, China Construction Bank London branch. Our silver sponsors, PetroChina International London, China Taiping Insurance UK, Agricultural Bank of China London branch, Bank of Communications London branch, Hytera Communications UK, HSBC, China Merchants Bank London branch, Landing Law Offices. So the Trade Forum has now concluded. We're running a bit late, but we have to turn this room around into a dining banquet for 400 people. And we want you all back here, if you're staying for dinner, in about an hour and a half. So the banqueting team have an enormous job on their hands. And I'm going to ask you to imagine you've just heard an emergency evacuation order, and everybody must leave. Take your personal belongings with you. If you're staying for dinner, please return to the reception area for 6 o'clock, and we start all over again with a wonderful gala dinner. Thank you all for participating. Out you go. Thank you.